Welcome back to the MLG Winter Championships here in Columbus, Ohio. Now, I wanted to take a few minutes here to learn more about Dave Walsh, a good friend of mine. I got to work with him last year as well, and I'm so excited to be here with you in the booth.
We're co-casters. I wouldn't consider us friends, Bravo.
And I want to ask you guys, inform you guys, and ask Dave a few questions just about the transition, being obviously one of the world's best Halo players, into now being a caster who can, help deliver analysis and kind of real informative feedback on gameplay to all the viewers out there. So the first question, Dave, is what would you say about your gameplay? Specifically, you're known as a strategist. Everything you do in the game, people really took a look at your setups, the special grenades you used, the specific callouts you used in game. What would you say in your playstyle as a professional Halo player has really carried over well to being a caster?
I always break things down. I always look at worst case scenarios. And I always look at what players are doing right outside of their actual shots. I feel like shots are something that you can't control. Obviously, you practice on it, you shoot as best you can, but what it ultimately comes down to is decision making, your teamwork, your communication, and I always tried to focus on those factors when I was playing, and I also focus on that while I'm casting.
Awesome, yeah, because that's something, obviously, when you're viewing at home, to be able to relay to all of our audience to help them understand really, what's going on in that player's head at the time, and also, he has to be thinking of, sometimes 10 different things that what my teammates are up to. The objective, the time on the clock, power-ups coming up, what my coach is saying. It literally is so much going in, especially during Astro listening, and you can kind of decipher that, which is really, really awesome to see. So we're also going to talk a little bit about what you think about this event so far. So free-for-all wise, what do you think are the biggest surprises?
Pistola getting out. He was one of my top 3. I also included Royal 2, and I think I want to say Snakebite was also my top 3.
Yeah.
So it was a big surprise seeing him get out. He also went in very confident, cocky Pistola style, saying, yeah, 80% chance I'm going to win this event. And he's out round 2.
Yeah.
So not very many points for his team. I think it's going to be a big shock to see if the other Instinct members do not step up in this free-for-all, that they could possibly have a lower seeding and the whole bracket could be kind of crazy.
That's one thing that I had started to wonder about before is, how much pressure is now put on the rest of Instinct. Obviously, there's so many different players here that are so good at free-for-all. So now there's so much pressure on those Instinct members. Are they really going to worry about getting that 4v4 seed, now? A little bit more pressure on them.
I think they're most confident with their 4v4, so they're not too worried about it. They obviously want to get to full screen round, get to best of 5s as fast as possible.
Yeah.
If they want to get outside of those, split screen best of 3s.
Of course.
But, yeah, I think it's more going to throw off other teams compared to throwing Instinct off. So if we could see some pretty crazy brackets, possibly some top teams going to the brackets, lower bracket soon or earlier, losers bracket. And I actually wanted to ask you yourself, one thing that I believe is really good about our casting crew that we have right now is we all have a lot of different views on it. We all have different experiences while competing, while coaching, and we also seen so many different players play, so we can give perspective on different players. Like, you've coached so many different squads. How does coaching translate to casting for yourself?
I think the biggest thing that I was able to use from my coaching experiences and to translate to casting is really understanding the big picture of Halo. So obviously, when coaching, I'm looking at 4 screens, and I really have to worry about just as many things as we were talking about earlier. So really, in my head, what I'm seeing when I was coaching was literally an overhead picture. And it took me actually a while to realize that. But what I see, for example, when I'm coaching a team on the pit is literally imagine an overhead. I kind of envision that. I map it out in my mind. That way, I can know where the team is, who can have help. If there's a player pushing in the courtyard, and I know there's a guy green, I can tell them to help each other. If he has that angle, and if we're all on our side of the map, I have to tell that courtyard guy to pull back. So I think being able to analyze those plays and relay that to my teammates, who obviously I have to gain their trust and prove to them that I can understand these things. So when I can relay that as a caster and say, this guy in courtyard is going to get caught off, or this guy in green needs to push up, I think being able to decipher those situations as well on my part has kind of really helped me in my casting career.
That's going to be a great help, because if you can see the screens in front of us, we have all 8 screens, especially when we get the full screen rounds, that we can see of everyone. So we all have to have great awareness of what's going on here, where the action is going to happen, possibly have Genius, our camera guy, switch over to the right screen at the right time, which he's been doing a great job of so far. One thing I really want to ask you about, though, is you've coached so many great players. How big is that insight, knowing what players are going to do? Because I noticed when I watched Instinct and when I was casting them at the previous LAN last week, I was able to just say, this is what Pistol's going to do. This is what Lunchbox is going to do. Because they were the team when I was competing, I studied because I always study the best. I always try to learn what I can from them.
Right. I'm glad you asked because one thing that I used to do back in Halo 3 actually was really break down possibly even too much other teams' gameplay. So I just studied VOD before a tournament. You know, when I was done my homework, literally studied hours of VOD, and I have a little write-up on a team. So, for example, there's players who would, you know, they'll always lift turret instead of go under snipe one when they're pushing a base. They'll always do certain things, and you can really pick up on all those tendencies. So, you know, I've really dug into all these their strategies, and especially when coaching a player. You know, Heinz, Pistola, SK, Hysteria, Best Man, Neighbor, players that I've really worked with, coached, and I mean, not only at tournaments, but at LANs. You know, sometimes 3-4 days at a time I'm watching them play, so I really know what they kind of do. The fact that, you know, Neighbor, not a jumpy player, rarely jumps. You think of Neighbor's Guardian play, you know, very, when he was playing 1v1s, never jumped around. So it's really cool to be able to also pick out tendencies in players' gameplay and see how not only pick up in Halo Reach, but how they carry over from a game like Halo 3 to Halo Reach and be able to relate that knowledge as well.
I agree. You've got to watch as much VOD as possible, learn from the best players. I always try to break down a lot of the unpredictable players because they obviously have to have certain tendencies to them.
Yeah.
You got to see what they do that makes them so quote-unquote unpredictable. A lot of times you'd find out they get in certain situations that, for the most part, everyone plays it out the exact same.
Yeah.
And they just do the opposite.
Yeah, they go ahead and do something different.
I just want to say that I'm really excited to cast with you.
Yeah,
excited
man.
to be with you with Gandhi. And we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Halo Reach Free-For-All Tournament here at the Winter Championships in Columbus, Ohio. I'm here with Dave Walsh, and my name is Bravo. Now, we just got word, Dave, that another member of Straight Ribbon was eliminated from the free-for-all.
Mickwin took 6th place in his free-for-all.
Yeah,
so 2 members of Straight out in round 1 and round 2. So.
Right, and they're one of the teams that we were kind of wondering how are they going to do in this 4v4 tournament, and if they even have less points now in this seeding, we're going to have to look at Ninja and Strongside are going to really have to carry them far if they want to get some good seeds. So now in this next free-for-all match, we're going to have Royal 2. Now he's one of our favorite players.
Top pick for both of us, I would say, though.
Yeah, that is a pretty good way to say it. Well. Yeah, definitely expecting him to do well. And it looks like the players he's playing against here, we're going to pull up this game in just a moment, but it looks like not too many other really well-known players. I think a few players.
Not too many notable ones. That just goes to show with the randomization of brackets how when you don't come in seeds, you can get in some really tough brackets like the previous matches we've seen, and you can possibly get what some people would consider a breeze.
Right, and now what we're going to really be looking for here is now Royal 2, is he going to pull away from this competition of players who he probably hasn't played with before, or are any of them going to stick with him? So we're going to try to pick out the strategies for you watching at home and decide which of these players are able to pick with Royal 2, or if Royal 2 is even able to hold control of this game. Now, starting off, obviously, we're going to have a lot of people getting in a few cross-match battles as they try to, first of all, head to gold and then eventually get to top middle to pick up that grenade launcher. Now, Dave, I'm not sure if you had talked about it with Scott earlier, but for anyone who might just be joining us, what do you think of this grenade launcher? Is it super powerful? Is it in the right place on the map? Tell me what you think.
Scott and myself both felt it's not that game-changing. It can make a difference, can make a kill or two that you can get without taking any damage in return. But in the end, you're not going to be going on sprees with it. It's not like it's a sword or a rocket, anything like that. It's obviously an advantage to have, but you really have to be in close quarters to use it. All the top players, they're going to be able to dodge a faraway grenade launch. They're going to just take only a slight amount of damage from it and have to be finished off in a few shots. Right. So you have to either catch them off guard or be within mid-range to get them.
Right, and I think another thing to take into consideration is the Zealot free-for-all, arguably a pretty fast-paced game type, and to think that you could actually grenade launch someone and take the time, and if you don't get that kill right away, to finish that kill, someone else is probably going to go ahead and steal it. So the one thing I would say is that grenade launcher on this map, if nothing else, it makes the game a little bit more interesting. It adds that one more priority that I think can be really exciting to play, and also for the viewers at home.
It absolutely adds the element to it. One thing I've noticed from people, though, is you notice how he grabs grenade launcher and he just stays top middle. If I had grenade launch, first off, that was a great grenade launch by Oh My Justin. But if I had it, I would go back to bridge, go back to health pack, go back to main ramp, because in that situation, you can force that mid-range battle, that close battle. Right. You can just pay attention to your radar, and a person's going to come up the spiral and get an easy one-shot kill with a grenade launch. Whereas when you put yourself top middle and push towards gold, you're pretty much asking the person to just see yourself with the grenade launch, and they're going to be able to dodge it. So even though he hit a great shot right there, that's not going to be happen very often.
Yeah, really interesting. And the one other thing we were noticing, Gore earlier, who went plus 25 in his free-for-all.
That game was ridiculous.
Yeah, and a few other players. What I'm noticing, and also Pistola's really strong game, they're bringing not only the grenade launcher, but they're heading completely towards main ramp, the top middle, around the bridges, health pack. That's kind of where these big battles are going. That's where you want to head to catch maybe a quick double kill. 2 people shooting each other. I think, do you think that's kind of where you want to hover if you're playing this game type?
And I didn't want to interrupt you back there, but once again, Oh My Justin tried to grenade launch a guy top gold and was not able to hit it in one shot because it's such an open area. Right. But repeat the question again. You're saying top main ramp is the action area?
Around main ramp, kind of top bridges around the plasma nades and health packs. Is that kind of where you tend to hover? I watched a little bit of the LAN last weekend where you got to play with some other pro players. But tell me, do you think that's a pretty good strategy?
You have to play it by spawns, and that is where you are most likely going to spawn. In a lot of cases, you're going to get those under the base spawns, you're going to get the flag spawns, you're going to get the top of the base spawns. Yeah. So you can account for, I wouldn't have an exact percentage, but almost half the game you're going to be spawning above, near health pack or under the base. So you have to be equally good in that situation. Some people are very comfortable in those fights and force, running over there, but the top free-for-all players, they know what they're going to do with every situation, whether they're at gold, whether they're bottom middle, or whether they're at the bases.
Yeah, I think that obviously comes from experience. The players who are playing so much free-for-all, who have been playing in this offseason, they're kind of going to be aware of every possible situation, or almost every possible situation they can get into, and they're going to turn that knowledge into results. Now, looking at the scoreboard here, it looks like World 2 now sitting in 5th, and quite a few players are ahead of him here. Let's take a look as we have in the lead, Oh My Justin, and in second place, Exclusive.
Royal 2 has such a good shot. If you do not 5 him, he will take you down. And I just want to point out that there's plenty of time left in this game. We have 11 minutes and 10 seconds. So I expect Royal 2 to come back. Even if he doesn't win this free-for-all, I do not expect him to get knocked out in this event.
Yeah, I agree. Right here we have now looking at Exclusive and Kid Ali right on their screen. Right there, and then 16 kills here for 16 kills here for Exclusive, 14 for Kid Ali. So they're kind of right there with them. And we're actually just getting an update from the floor. What was that, Dave?
2 final boss members out of the tournament. Victory X took 7th in this free-for-all, and SK did not make his match and got disqualified.
Oh my goodness. Well, that is quite unfortunate. So that's another team, another one of our fringe teams that we're not sure how they were going to do this event. You know, there's no doubt they have talent. You know, they have great Halo players, veteran players who have played so well in this league. However, you know, they might not have been as dedicated to some others in this offseason. So obviously now, like once again, only having 2 members for that team as well to get points for them, they're going to really be depending on Fear itself and Neighbor. And I can't, you know, I'm not sure how well each of them are going to do in this free-for-all tournament.
I had spoke with SK earlier, had an interview with him, and he, you know, predicted he was going to do fine in the free-for-all, felt very comfortable, and it's just a shame. And you can't expect that from a veteran. Someone who's played so many tournaments, knowing they have to be around on time. He must have not noticed he was coming up, must have been in the wrong area, so that's just, I'm blaming that one on SK for not being in the right area at the right time.
Right. And so one thing that we talked about, you know, is that a lot of these teams might not necessarily be, you know, practicing free-for-all for the seeding. You know, that, for example, Captain Anarchy said he only played, you know, about a solid 5 days of practice for specifically for the tournament, but he was playing with good players, and then he comes out with a first-place finish. So it's really going to be those veterans. So I want to say that, you know, SK definitely could have had a really good showing here.
Yes, it's just a shame that he wasn't able to show up to his match. That's not the way you want to see anyone go out, especially a player of his caliber.
Yeah, so then, I mean, now looking at those remaining final boss members, we're looking at, as I said earlier, Neighbor and Fear itself. Now, Neighbor, I know he's been playing a lot of free-for-all in the offseason. He played a lot of free-for-all with Best Man, who absolutely loves to play free-for-all, and we can expect big things from him. Fear itself, I'm not sure how much he's been playing. I know he's been playing an awful lot these last few days heading up to the tournament, so we might see a surprise victory from him. But as we said earlier, how much, Dave, do you think now that they have this pressure, that their teammates, you know, are no longer in the free-for-all tournament, and their seed is ultimately, there's no doubt about it, determined by them? Do you think that extra pressure is going to help some players or hurt some players?
It works both ways, like you said before. Most veterans, you got to assume that's going to help them for the fact that they've been in the situation before. They have more experience there. And I'm just so surprised by the Victory X one. I would love to know who was in this round.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because for him to take 7th, it's not like he just barely missed out and got 5th. He took 7th. There was no chance of winning that unless it was an extremely close game. So I would love to hear later the scores of that match and who knocked him out.
Definitely. Well, we'll try to get those exact numbers for you to hear who was in their free-for-all. But also, SK had mentioned to me, I spoke with him on the phone this week. I said, hey, man, tell me about this tournament. What do you think is it's going to happen here? We talked about who he thought was the best free-for-all player on his team, and he actually said Victory X. So, you know, that, I don't know if I should be worried about that team.
I think teams are either bad at gauging their teammates' free-for-all skill or just their top players are not coming out to play. Because same with Instinct. There's, like, without a question, Pistola's their best free-for-all player.
Yeah, and I mean, Ogre 2 said without a doubt that it went to Ola. So that might bring into a little bit, I started talk about it earlier, and also talk to Captain Anarchy about it. How much the spawns and any random factors really come into play on these free-for-alls. You hear some pros saying, oh, free-for-all is random, and then we see a free-for-all with 3 pro players earlier, them taking the top 3. So we're seeing kind of conflicting statements about free-for-all being made here by the players and also by the game itself. So it'll be really interesting to see what our finals look like.
There's always that random factor. There's always going to be a little bit of luck. But if it gets to be a problem when players start to blame things that are not lucky or random on luckiness and randomness, if you understand what I'm saying. So the players that make excuses in situations that they shouldn't, they're just making themselves worse. They could be a better player, and they're just making excuses for not getting better. So they just have to. I always tried to take the approach that just it was my fault in bad situations. I always felt like with that approach, I would always be the best player I could be. There would be sometimes maybe I couldn't control the situation or would be unlucky. But I couldn't go wrong by having that mindset. If you have that mindset, you're going to improve the best you can. Some people seem to take the approach that, all right, I just need to be as confident as possible, which confidence is very important. But some people just take that route like, oh, everything is lucky or that was unfortunate. And when you take that route every single time, you're making yourself a player overall.
Right. I always respect the attitude when someone complained about a spawn, you know, if they just realized if I hadn't died in the first place, I wouldn't have spawned there. So I think that definitely
That's a simple approach.
Yeah, being super critical of your gameplay is something that can definitely help you very much in the long run. Now, looking at the scoreboard, it looks like Royal 2 has climbed his way back to the top, talking about consistent free-for-all players. Now he's tied for first place with just under 6 minutes left in the game.
Royal 2 plays so smart when he's on the top of that base. One thing I want you to notice at the start was he spawned on top of the base and he just starts crouch walking towards that front jump. He expects a player to be paying attention to the radar, and if they don't see someone above him, they're going to go that front jump and just not even look at him, towards landing. He's going to get that easy back smack.
Right. And
anytime you can get that nade lead kill or a back smack without taking any damage, that's a free kill.
Yeah.
You can move on to the next kill right after that.
Absolutely. That's something that I think it might be considered, you know, a small, minute detail by some, but crouch walking is not something we see that much so far in this free-for-all tournament.
And it's very situational. As you notice, Royal 2 is not doing it all the time. He's just doing it in situations like that top base spawn, where he saw someone possibly spawning under him.
And I actually saw him do it earlier with the person who he's split screening when he wanted to lift gold, and he crouch walked, lifted gold, but obviously the guy took a look at his screen. Yeah, but so right here, Royal 2 only down by 1 kill now. Let's see who's behind him. Exclusive. So Exclusive still staying all the way at the top. So props to him for being consistent throughout this free-for-all game.
Royal 2 is just playing so aggressive in his free-for-alls. His mindset, if I was able to think about what he was thinking about, is he goes in saying, all right, if I wait for my shield to get back, that's going to take about 7-8 seconds. Whereas if I die, if I charge, try to get a kill, get a trade in this situation, it only takes 5 seconds to respawn.
Right.
Why am I waiting 8 seconds for shields when I can just respawn, start fresh, and go for another kill?
Right. And
he's so confident in his shot, he does not care.
Now, looking at the numbers, it looks to be, if the game continues for the next 4 minutes at this pace, it looks to be a race for third place. I say that because we have Royal 2 and I think Exclusive, X9 all the way at the top with 43-43, and then we have 36 with Kid Ali and Oh My Justin. So those two are really fighting, and also below him, those three are really fighting for that third place. So if the game continues at this pace, now that's something I also want to talk about with you, Dave. At what point in the game do you think players generally take off? Can it be whenever they catch fire, whenever they get multi-kills, or is it more that around this time we start to see the game spread out? Because I think we've kind of seen that around the 4-minute mark, we really start to see the differences between players.
At any time, I hate to contradict you, because it's just how the players play. Every free-for-all is going to be different with who you have in it. So you can have some players that right off the bat are just going to be super aggressive, challenging. Or you're going to have some players right off the bat just playing super passive and not challenging. And so that the pace of the game always changes depending on the mix of players you have.
Yeah, one thing I think that's been really cool to see is we had Strong Sign in his round 1 free-for-all. Started at the bottom, slowly got to 4th, and then by the end of the game, managed to get to 2nd place. And we also had Pistola last round, who stayed at the bottom, and I thought for sure he'd be climbing to 4th, but he was unable to do so. And now we have Royal 2, who had a little bit of a slower start, and now he's back in 1st place. So we kind of see pro players having different kind of lifespans throughout all of these different free-for-all games. So it's really great to see such a new game type that offers a fresh breath of air to competitive Halo Reach. Nice triple kill here.
Very nice.
X9, if he had the bullets, I think he might have gone the over.
And I think that might be a little off because X9 is in 2nd. And one thing I was going to ask, have you ever heard of X9 before?
I don't think I have.
I have not. And I'm very impressed to see that he's keeping up with Royal 2, someone who I expect to go very far in this free-for-all. And I just want to see him prove me round after round, because one part of me says, all right, maybe this is a new up-and-comer. Maybe he's going to make it to top 8, top 16 in this free-for-all. But in the back of my mind, I always have that thought, all right, he's in a round with not too many big names.
Right.
He can obviously possibly go around out shooting all these other players and just, get plays like that. But when he gets to the top, top 8, top 16, he's not going to be able to just run around and 5 everyone. Everyone at that point in the game is going to have the best shots in the league. Right.
So in the same way that it's tough to gauge, how well did Classic do against Stray Griffin and, XY versus this team, we also have to gauge that for the free-for-all. So it's not always easy.
So many different factors you got to take into account. So best example I can give right now is Gore. He beat Strong Side by 14 kills, going plus 25. And they obviously had some big names in there, but the point being is he has to repeat that round after round in order to show that consistency.
Right.
If he was able to do that again next round with even more big names, I'll be impressed. But as of now, he definitely gets some credit.
Right, and it is. I mean, it's really cutthroat. You're playing free for all for the entire day today. You have to perform time and time again. Throughout the entire night. We're going to be playing well into the night here. It looks like. So it's really a testament. Not only the veteran players here are going to be used to playing that long. They're going to be used to playing an entire weekend of Halo. They're going to be used to landing for days at a time, and they're going to have this endurance. These new players, often I bet, it's kind of a hindrance and really makes it difficult to play Halo at such a high level against these big names. Do you think for these amateur players and these players looking to make a name for themselves that really is a big factor?
It can be, but I see a lot of these guys just ride on an adrenaline rush. I've seen so many just come out and they're excited to be here at their tournament. They're excited to make a name for themselves, and they come out to play. So I don't count out anybody, but then again, I do not want to give too much credit where it's not due yet. These players have to prove themselves round after round.
That's right. So we'll be looking to see which players end up making it into the later rounds of the evening. Now Royal 2 making a huge gap. He'll easily take first place in this game. Let's see if there's any other close matches. Looks like third, fourth here.
Fourth is where we are looking at next.
Yeah, just Carnage and Exclusive, 48-47.
Yep, and Exclusive and Ali is where the biggest deal is. If he's able to get some sort of triple kill to come back, Ali, I mean, he's only 2 kills out of fourth, fifth, or out of third, fourth. So we'll have to see if he can pull out something, because this is his free-for-all tournament at stake right here.
Now he just grabbed the kill up top gold, looking to try to clean up something else, but it looks like the clock is going to dwindle down.
1 kill for Ali if he can get it.
Ooh, and I think that's going to be it. 47, 48, 49 are our fifth, fourth, and third places. So a very, very close right there on the fringe. Several players here are going to go home, but also the other 4 will advance into the next round.
No surprise from Royal 2. Went positive 18, taking first with a commanding lead.
So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the NOS performance of the match. Dave had started to say, now Royal 2 going positive 18. Look at the rest of the stats on the board, Dave. Nowhere near as impressive.
Absolutely not. He was above and beyond every player out in that field. So he had a rough start. It just goes to show how mature he is. Even at that age, his tournament maturity is he knows he can play his game and it's going to eventually come back.
Right.
He did not change anything up. He just played and eventually worked in his favor.
Right, a player who got a lot of exposure at the last LAN, who also got a lot of local media exposure, so congrats to him for that. Playing well, and it's paying off. Also, taking a look at those stats one more time, something you had mentioned is deaths versus waiting for your shield to go up. So look at this, X9 only going positive 1, and then you have just Carnage going positive 7, with significantly less deaths, but we saw X9 there probably being a little bit more aggressive, and I think it paid off. He's going to grab more points for his team now in seeding.
Yes, he is.
So very awesome thing to note there, that you really don't have to worry about deaths that much, and that you can go ahead and really play that aggressive, because the chance of you tying someone else, you'd rather obviously go for the kills.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this group will be meeting up with the group we saw earlier, which was Ninja,
right.
The one Pistola got knocked off. So that was Ninja, Anarchy. Can you name the other 2 at the moment?
Let's see. Ninja, Anarchy was prototype in there.
Straight Stick was in there.
Right.
And we got one more. What is it?
Don't remember.
It doesn't matter.
But yeah, but
I think we have these guys meeting up with them, because this was round 2, Heat 2. We are moving on to round 3 next. From here on out, is it full screen?
I think now we do go to full screen. That does start in round 3. Of course, there's still a single elimination bracket, all those players being eliminated now. So we're going to have a little bit more different, not only screen to look at, but different play styles perhaps from some of these players. Dave, one more thing I want to ask before we go to commercial. Full screen versus split screen. What's the biggest thing these players are going to be worrying about?
You're going to see the players with top shots really shine here. I mean, a lot of these pros, as we've talked to before, they've said, we haven't really practiced split screen. They realize that they have the skill to hopefully get through the split screen rounds and get to full screen, where they practice every day online, every day on LAN. So this is where their shots are really going to separate themselves from each other.
Cool. So maybe a little bit more relying on their shot than their strategy.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we will be back with more free-for-all action in just a bit.